Speaking of Ethereum, there is Tron 2, which has been popularized as Ethereum Killer. So is Tron Ethereum Killer? We'll discuss with our guest, but first, what is Tron? Well, Tron on their website says it is dedicated to accelerating the decentralization of the internet via blockchain technology and dApps, that's decentralized applications. The network was founded in September 2017. It's built around the proof-of-stake consensus mechanism. Like Ethereum, the Tron network also supports smart contracts, making it dApp friendly. But why is Tron called Ethereum Killer? So first is scalability. So Tron has a more advanced space and capability to achieve scalability. Then decentralized version of the internet, as they've also explained and also identified themselves as. So on Tron, users can create, share, or even trade content. So that's a decentralized version of the internet. And then you have delegated proof of stake, which is a variation of proof of stake mechanism, and it's called DPoS. So 27 super representatives, that's SRs, are elected to verify transactions and package them into blocks. These SRs can also propose network improvements. With us, Sharat Chandra, VP Research and Strategy, Earth ID, and then Malik Kotadia, co-founder and chairman, Finnovation Labs. A very warm welcome to both of you. So would you say Tron is Ethereum Killer, Mr. Kotadia?
Hi Arun. My answer to that very categorically would be no. I mean, periodically we keep hearing about it, whether it is Tron, EOS, Solana, Cardano, they've all been tipped to be Ethereum killers at some point of time or the other, and some of them have evolved to saying there's no need to kill each other, we can coexist. I'll just give the analogy of Web 2.0 so that, you know, it becomes more real life for our users.
Sure.
We've seen similar questions in the early days of Web 2.0 and for its leading applications or platforms as well, whether it is Facebook or Amazon or Google. And I believe there are three elements or components which are important in deciding an eventual winner or winners. The first is, of course, better technology and capability, and we heard from our previous guests that's Tron does score over here, in whether it is in terms of transaction speed, it can do 2000 transactions per second, lower gas fees, etc. Even Solana scores here. The second would be user experience, how easy, how intuitive it is. And again, we heard from our previous speakers that all of these, including Tron, do facilitate dApps, NFTs, DeFi, which are considered to be perhaps the biggest emerging applications for these kinds of smart contract enabled platforms. And the third, very important but often overlooked, is the network effect. And that means essentially when we see Facebook was not the first social network in the world, and it's not been the last. There have been many other attempts to replace it, but the only reason is Facebook has a network of 2 billion users. So the exit barrier becomes that much higher, and that's the same thing I believe will be replicated, at least in my estimate, in Web 3.0 as well. And if we see it, you know, Tron has the highest USDT supply. It has its own stable coin. It has a very robust DeFi locked-in value, etc. But when you look at times of crisis like these, it's also human nature. With, you know, even in the equity markets, that investors flock to the largest and safest bets. So in the stock market, for example, everybody now wants to flock to the Microsofts and the Apples of the world, leaving behind the smaller, high growth, high flyer names. And if you look at those parallels, Ethereum still has the most number of dApps, almost a 75% share, 3,000 dApps. It has the highest DeFi value locked in. In terms of, we'll
get into the details of this, but a quick reaction from Mr. Chandra as well. What is your answer to this question? Is Tron...
points shared by Malik, my good friend, and I think it's important to highlight that, see, Tron was more like a ripoff or copied idea by Justin Sun, right? It was more like an improvement over the Ethereum idea itself. But if you look at other aspects in terms of, let's say, the total value locked, or which even Malik pointed out, it pales in comparison to what Ethereum has, right? But let's also look at the number of accounts. It has 100 million accounts and close to 3.4 billion worth of transactions settled. So that also gives you a glimpse of the network effect. But it would be an exaggeration to say that there's going to be Ethereum killer. Even in terms of transaction per second, Tron claims only 2,000. If you look at Solana, they are far ahead in terms of TPS, right?
But then would you
I don't think...
Sure, carry on.
Yeah, so I don't think they are in any way going to replace Ethereum. So Ethereum Killer may just be a over glorification for them.
But would you go to an extent to call it an Ethereum copycat?
I would, to a certain extent, because if you look at the founder's history itself, right? So he also copied Uniswap, made it just swap, right? So and the fundamentals just remain the same. Even the nomenclature has changed. Just the nomenclature has changed. Just look at the Tron stablecoin, an algorithmic stablecoin. It looks like a replica of the failed UST, right? So that way, I'm not so convinced about the credentials of that particular stablecoin, and it has also dipped last month significantly. Fell down by more than 35%, and he's also struggling to restore the peg, pulling money off the exchanges. Close to 3.5 billion worth of USDC is being pumped into Tron DAO. So I don't think even on stable coin front, I'm not sure that it will have the same fate as USD had.
Yeah, especially when we've seen a lot of stable coins also struggle in the past, Mr. Kotaria. So that's one. But then you've also said that, you know, both these, Ethereum and Tron, are probably independent or strong in their own way. So on that front, so this, you know, Tron has delegated proof of stake. Do you think that has any edge over Ethereum?
See, I think this is an ongoing and perhaps an endless debate in the community. That holy trilemma, as they call it, between security, speed and decentralization, and you can never achieve all three. I mean, I am no one to say it, even Vitalik has said it. So it's always going to be a trade-off between speed and security or performance and what you want to use the blockchain for. There is a very good friend of mine who's a professor at one of the universities in Singapore. He puts it well that blockchain was never supposed to be a solution for efficiency. If you want efficiency, there are already databases. It was supposed to be a solution for a very different set of problems, which is the trustless transaction. So I think the answer is evident in that.
So there's a term, you know, Internet of the future. Which out of these is Internet of the future as per you, Mr. Kotaria?
So again, as I said, these are early days. It almost reminds me of going back to the early 90s of the internet era, and there were as many speculations as experts out there who would say, you know, which would be the killer app or which would be the killer platform. And almost all of the Web 1.0 platforms died, and nobody even thought of Facebook.
And what according to you, Mr. Chandra? Which out of these is the Internet of the future?
Given the scalability challenges we have, I would still say the layer 2 solutions will have a bigger role to play. So the way Polygon puts it, like AWS of the Web 3 world, I would bet my bet on the layer 2 solution of the world.
Okay, thank you so very much, gentlemen.